Hey, welcome back to Mike Frausto Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the personal growth, style, branding, and everything in between. I'm your host, Mike Frausto, and today we're going to talk about something that truly has the power to change your life: self awareness. Have you ever felt stuck, unsure about what's your next move? Or like you are just going through the motions without a clear sense of direction? What if I told you that the key to unlock your true potential lies in an understanding yourself at a deeper level? Today, I have an incredible guest who's going to help us just that. He's a Drew Broman, a certified self awareness coach, speaker, and transformation expert. And he has helped countless individuals gain clarity, confidence, and control over their lives through self awareness. Welcome, Drew. I'm so excited to having you here. Self awareness, it's such a powerful yet sometimes overlooked topic. To kick things off, how did you first discover the importance of self awareness in your life?
Well, thanks, Mike. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I appreciate that introduction. So, self awareness came to me through therapy. So, I am a lifelong therapy student, starting in my 20s. And although it wasn't explained as such, okay, we're going to take you on a process of self-awareness. It wasn't that literal. It was just, a therapist talking to you and delving in with questions and, helping guide you and find your answers. And then over the years, I mean, many years later, it just came to me that basically what that is increasing your self-awareness, is getting through that therapeutic talk and the questions and answer. You are gaining a higher level of awareness of yourself, of who you are, what you are, your values, um, what's what's right for you and wrong for you, as
Mhm.
opposed to what society and your family and generations have told you.
Yeah.
So that's basically how it initiated for me.
Okay, completely. Just moving a little bit from your background, just before you start with this right of self awareness and really putting all the work into yourself, like, hey, this is not what I want to keep living in my life. I have to really be self aware, indeed. Previously, again, just back to your history, you grew up in a kind of very close minded home, or how was your story about your early years of life?
So I grew up with a wonderful family.
Mhm.
They were loving, but they were also knowledgeable on a lot of things. And it wasn't an affectionate family. It wasn't a communicative family where you felt like you can talk about your problems. And as a child, I had a lot of issues and I couldn't talk to them because that environment was never made clear or safe, you know? And it was of no malintent of my parents or family. It was, you can call it a generational curse. It's just what they knew from their family, and so on and so on. So, one of the highlights for me was when I was 27, and I may have told you this privately, I'm not sure, but when I was 27 and I was in my first serious relationship, and where and he was very affectionate, and he put his arm around me,
Mhm.
and I kind of froze up. And I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know? And it was kind of a light bulb moment telling me that how uncomfortable I felt with that and how not okay I was with that. And the light bulb moment was like, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to continue this process, you know? And I learned how to be through therapy, through
Mhm.
self awareness, through breaking the cycle. I learned how to be the most affectionate person there is, you know?
Yeah,
So you know what I'm saying? So that
completely.
was a huge turning point for me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, completely, definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, After that experience that you've had, like, okay, I don't want to feel uncomfortable with the self-expression or love expression. I want to, land or move on, like be able to express myself to and receive all that love and don't feel awkward about it. What kind of actions did you take? Like, okay, you mentioned therapy, but if there is something specific, like really makes you like, oh my God, this is changing my mindset. I don't see it or I'm not experiencing the things that in the way I used to like feel uncomfortable and close to myself and like what is happening, when someone show me love.
Well, most of these things are based in fear.
Mhm.
Okay. Most of the things we're afraid of things or actions like, in that intimacy, right? I was afraid of intimacy because it wasn't shown to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what that looked like,
Mhm.
right? So it was uncomfortable, but it was a fear in a way. Not like, oh my God, I'm so afraid, but more of a subconscious
Yeah.
fear. So through my therapist at that time, she was wonderful
Mhm.
and just very, to the point. She said, "You have to start talking to yourself." And I said, "What?" And she said, "No, really." She said, "Not necessarily out loud." She said, "But you have to talk to
Mhm.
yourself and walk yourself through these situations." So she said, "Next time you're sitting with him, I want you to say, 'Drew, pick up your hand and put it on his knee.'" And I was laughing at her,
Yeah.
because I was just like, "What? That sounds so silly." She
Mhm.
said, and she laughed. She said, "Yes, it sounds silly, but it's not." She said, "You have to retrain your brain to let it know that it's okay, that it's comfortable, that it's received well, right?" So that is exactly what I did. I started to talk myself and walk through the steps.
Mhm.
Okay, Drew, pick up your hand. Okay, Drew, put it on his knee.
Okay.
Okay, Drew, squeeze his knee. Like literally,
Yeah.
like baby steps.
Hmm.
And amazingly, after again repeated behavior like riding a bike or like any new thing that you are learning, with repetition
Yeah.
becomes natural,
Mhm.
becomes comfortable, and becomes easy. And it did. And it did.
Okay. Yeah, that. But something about you mentioned like little by little, step by step, like a baby, because you, again, even that you born in a home that, of course, there was love, your parents love
Yeah.
you and everything, and you have to learn these new at the moment kind of ways to express love and accept love. Did you feel like it was like a progressive path, or you sometimes felt like, oh my God, I'm being too much with the person because I'm learning, so I have to take a step back and try to reconfigure it, something like that,
Well,
yourself?
it's a long time ago, Mike. But what I can't, what I, and I may not remember everything,
Hmm.
but I remember being progressive in the sense that it got more comfortable each time.
Hmm.
And it also got more comfortable because the behavior was reinforced by my partner,
Okay.
right? So when I would do that, he would do that back. Or if I would touch his neck, he would say, "Oh, that feels good." So there was a positive reinforcement to that behavior,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want to say that it was like from my memory that there was like, "Oh, I got to stop this," or, like that. It just gradually became more and more comfortable
Hmm.
until, like I said, before I knew it, I was the first one, kissing or hugging or touching. It was just became so like natural, and I
Yeah.
was free. I was free of that fear, and you know, of all else that was holding me back from doing that.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful thing. And I want to, if I can just go back, well, not go back actually, because it was around that time,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit after that, that I love this story. It's one of the best things in my life,
Okay.
is that around that time, around that age bracket, I was with the same person. I had a 3-hour conversation with my parents on the phone.
Okay.
And I told you, they never said, I love you. Again, you knew it, but you needed to, a child needs to hear, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
So my therapist said, you have to say it to them first. And I was like, what? Again, anxiety, goosebumps. They're like, what's the problem? You don't think you're going to hear it back? And I said, well, I think they love me, but I never heard it. Like she said, sometimes you have to be the teacher for your parents. Your parents are human just like you. Another light bulb. What? They're human, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I said to my mother on the phone, I said, how come you never said I love you? And Mike, it still makes me so emotional because when someone is being totally genuine and authentic. And in that moment, my mother paused for a quick second. I heard her voice crack like a little bit. And she said, oh my God, I didn't know I had to. And I said, you didn't know you had to? And she said, Grandma and Grandpa never told me they loved us. And I didn't know that's what I was supposed to do. I'm so sorry. And Mike, after that day, not a single phone call, not a single visit did my mother not say, I love you first. It was so powerful.
Yeah.
It's still powerful today that we do have the power to help people grow if they want to. Now, if my mother was like, what's the big deal? Like, like if she had an attitude like that, of course, then no, I can't help you. But if somebody is really open and they're like, and that kind of is the work that I do today,
Mm-hmm.
is I'm here to just give you information. I'm trying to show you some things,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to decide, the client is going to decide, is this oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Or do I do that? Or should I do that? Or do I want to do that? Or is that who I am? Oh my, to start that process of self-awareness and questioning ourselves, who we really are.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Do you think, like, if you listen often in your home, like from your parents, like more often that I love you, your life story will be completely changed, or you will, for example, you're a coach and everything, all the things that you've been achieving in your life as a in that area. Do you think if you had the tools, like having the backup of listening that your parents love you, do you consider that your career will change completely, or you will be doing the same as now?
so I guess get asked this question like all the time about, my trauma in my childhood and things like that. And, on one hand, I was like, sure, I'd be stupid to say, oh, if I didn't have to go through that, I wouldn't. I would have much rather, being in a loving, affectionate family and not having any of the issues I had as a kid. Sure. But you know what I'm going to say. Everything we've been through in life makes us who we are today.
But
So I would not be the person I am today without all those struggles. And I've said this to you before. We only learn, unfortunately, through our pain.
completely.
We don't learn and grow through everything, getting everything we want and being happy and joyous 24/7. we don't grow that way, unfortunately. So yes, I'm sure I would be different in some way. In some way.
Yeah. I think in putting two things in perspective about the things that you mentioned. One, like the perspective of also analyze your parents, like, hey, they're also figuring out what they're doing with their life because no one have a backup experience here in this reality. Of course, they'll figure it out. See it in the perspective as you did it with your therapist, even like from the perspective of love. Like, because many people feel stuck, like, oh, my parents never tell me I love them, I love you. So I will not even have the courage to let them know
Yeah,
because, oh, I don't receive that. So what they supposed to assume? And
yeah,
many people feel stuck in that way. Like they always, and their facial expression, it's also like angry, disappointed with their, not only with the parents, with their life in general. I think it's something beautiful to mention that, like, your parents are here also figure it out and having the perspective, like, okay, how I can, now that I'm becoming an adult, or as an adult even, now how can make them feel good, even that the work that they don't do, but also a lot of things that they provide me, even the basic, like it's food or whatever at home.
hmm,
That's also shows a kind of love, in a some way. And having this perspective, I think it's beautiful to mention that, like, yeah, you have to, again, as your therapist said, you have to be the first to show them, to teach them. And as a humans in general, everyone teach from everyone in this reality. And that part of,
exactly.
and part of the ego is like assume, like, I don't know everything in the world. I'm relearning and also stopping to learn certain things that could not be positive for me. So I think to land into that mindset is very on point about it, and especially with a direct connection with another human that as your parents. I think it's something good to mention.
I think, like I said, it's a beautiful thing to mention because, you know, as children of dysfunction or again trauma or whatever it is,
Mhm.
we hold on to the blame game. Well, my parents didn't do this, that's why I'm this way.
Mhm.
Or if my parents did that, I would be a better person. Or, and you know what? That's fine for a little bit, right? But when you are an adult, now it's your choice. And I always say this, as an adult, we don't have control of much, but we have control over the choices that we make. So we can choose to keep blaming them for our miserable life or unhappiness, right? Or we could say, you know what? They didn't do that. They didn't do this, but I'm going to change that
Yeah.
because I want to be different, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to have that conversation and let them know. And if they're open to that, wonderful. And if they're not, okay. There's nothing I can do. I can't do anything if they're not open, right?
Yeah.
But this is, that whole thing about we are all human, whether they're your parents, who we think are some sort of God, right? Because they're our parents, they should know everything, and they don't, and like you said, we are all here to help each other. And
Mhm.
if that's your friend, your spouse, your parent, you know, whoever it is, now it's up to them to receive or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we each hold the power.
Yeah. I get it. I think, and just back to my mind, or comes to my mind, like, actually, when we start to talk on TikTok, that's the way we met. Uh, we mentioned about, like, you have to also have the courage to take your responsibility in life, and as you're becoming adult, stop to say, like, oh, I'm being like this because I experienced this, and unconsciously you put it in perspective as a victim, and like, oh, I'm just the result of others. And then,
Yeah.
like, yes, but as an adult you have to have the courage to find your own voice, find how you want to be, the version you want to be, if you want to keep repeating the patterns, and stop to with the self-awareness, like dive into yourself and find your
Mhm.
own voice, identity, and perhaps some, not everything is bad from the people that you grew up. Also take the best of it, but again, it's do an exam to yourself, and that requires a courage. And many people unfortunately get older and never stop to think about it. They're always the victim as a result of the previous
Yes.
experiences they had as a young age.
And that's so sad to me because I've had family members that were like that, and I've known people who were like that, and they just chose to blame the world, blame the circumstances, um, and forever stayed in that negative space.
Yeah.
And again, yes, it fucking sucked. Oh, I don't know if I can curse,
Go
but
ahead. Go
it
ahead.
fucking sucked.
Yeah.
That stuff sucked. And yes, you had to go through it. I had to go through it. Nothing is going to take that away, nothing. But now, are you going to use that and stay in that resentful,
Hmm.
uh, blaming others for your situation as an adult? Or are you going to try what I call flip it and reverse it?
Hmm.
Okay. And flip it into something positive.
Yeah.
Like, how can I use that now? How can I use that horrible thing that happened to me?
Hmm.
Because I can't undo it. I can't erase it, can't take it away. It lives inside me, right? And it will always be inside me. Now, how can I flip that and use it for something good or positive, or, breaking a cycle or a curve, So, and I want to stress to who's ever watching this, none of this is easy. Okay. None of this is easy. It's not like, okay, boom. It's a process.
Yeah.
It is a process. And like you said, you need to be courageous and have some bravery to confront yourself, to look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't want to be like this anymore, or I want to be like that.
Mhm.
Or you have to look at yourself in the mirror on a deeper level, and then you have to start doing the work. And that's the part, like you said, it's hard. And a lot of people don't want to do that because it's hard. But I cannot stress enough. Yes, it is all of that. But on the other side, there is such a freedom that I don't think I can even explain to you until you feel it.
Yeah.
There's just a freedom within your body when you are able to change the dynamic of whatever it is you've been through into something good
Yeah.
for yourself, for others.
Mhm. Completely.
So,
I
yeah.
think it's something that as a humans, all of us, no matter what can be or everywhere or where they born, all of us were connected to this. I think that's the main purpose of life for everyone as a human, that you have to find your own voice, because even the rich people or people with privilege, they have a certain issues even with that. And for us,
Sure.
they can think like, oh my god, they have their life because they have money, they have access to kind of benefits in society, whatever. But even them, they had a certain traumas, perhaps not in comparison with others. Of course, there are
Mhm.
different levels. But as a humans, our main purpose is to have the courage to find our own voice
Mhm.
and base it on the things that we experienced as a child, as a baby, all the information that we absorbed, that it was not kind of an option, to say in some way, that it was the way we have to experience this start of the book or the story here as a human.
Mhm.
I think that is something that connect us, and also see again with this perspective of love, like everyone is trying to figure it out, even my parents as they experience with their parents. So I have to focus on myself first, understand what I'm gonna be, and be able to, I don't know, to keep going from the perspective of love, that I have to be good to myself first, love myself, put myself first, and then try to help others, but only if they want. Don't force them, because if here in Mexico we see something like, even the shoes, if they are not your size, you will not fit on it.
Yeah, I
It
think I got
happens
that.
the same. Yeah, happens the
You
same.
know, it's to what you said, it's your parents have their life
Mhm.
and they, as adults, get to make their own choices.
Yeah.
If they want to change or if they want to stay the same, right?
Mhm.
You are now an adult, me, you are now an adult, and you are responsible for your life.
Mhm.
You are not responsible for your parents' life, right? You are not responsible for changing them or changing anyone,
Mhm.
but we are responsible for using our voice to say, this wasn't okay for me. This is what I need. Is this something you can do for me?
Mhm.
To, to let your voice speak your truth, right?
Yeah.
And then again, if it's received, beautiful. And if it's uh, repelled or, not taken in, then that's their choice. And now we have a choice to disassociate from them,
Mhm.
depending on what the issues are or whatever, or accept it because that's our choice now,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So, and one more quote I want to give you, I don't know if we're done, but is in one sense, we are the sum of everything that's happened to us in our life,
Mm.
right? I believe everything that's happened to me lives within my body somewhere. But, but we don't have to be what happened to us. We get to decide that, like I said earlier, I want to be someone else. I don't want to suffer my whole life. I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel ashamed. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel regret. I don't want to feel resentment. I could go on, right? I want to be this. And that statement right there can be very empowering when someone looks in the mirror and says that I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Very empowering.
Completely. Completely. Of course, require a lot of work behind once you start to analyze this, first of all, and implement it on your life,
But worth it
Get worth it. Yeah.
because
Completely.
you're worth it. I'm
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah.
We're worth it. We're worth doing the work. We're worth looking inside ourselves and gaining that awareness. We're
Yeah.
worth it.
Exactly. Base it on this, how we can identify if someone they are truly self-aware, just to interact with the same people that share this frequency and mindset that after all the work we've been passing through or we're doing, how we can be surround the same kind of people that have this kind of mindset and also it's self-aware. Is there a kind of way to they can start to developing or how we can identify?
Wait, are you saying? I'm not sure. Are you saying that when we become self-aware, how can we be around the people that are not?
Exactly, or how we can identify if they are also self-aware.
Well, I think once you become self-aware,
Mhm.
at and I don't mean like the first day, I mean when you've been practicing it a while, right? I think i think your intuition
Mhm.
and your senses are heightened where talking to somebody for a considerable amount of time,
Mhm.
you kind of get a feeling for it.
Yeah.
You kind of getting a feeling for, are they closed-minded, are they open-minded, you know what I'm saying? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, you have the choice that, that's not good for me. They're
Mhm.
not good for me, whether they're family, friends, or whoever. And then you need to decide if you can accept or disassociate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think there's a lot of work and time to analyze that you have to put it together because again, even that you love a lot someone, it doesn't mean that you will stop to love them but also from the story and the person you want to become and that you want to be, you also have to have the courage to say, I love you. And from the love that I have to you, I also decide to put myself first, start to say to myself or tell myself my own story. And unfortunately, my story is not with the characters that have that certain mindset that become toxic and don't let me shine in this path
Mhm.
of life, you know?
And that's a hard one, Mike. And that's all, it's very hard for some people to say, again, especially when it's a family member, you know, because again, we're brought up to be like, oh no, that's your family. You can't do that to your family. You can't, that's your mother, that's your sister. So again, it's those things that we're brought up to believe that are not true, because again, you're an adult now
Mhm.
and you are responsible for your well-being.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have people that help you with that, a partner, a friend, family, but ultimately you are the one who's responsible. So if somebody's energy or somebody's toxicity or somebody's, negativity is doing something to you that you don't like, then you have to stay away.
Yeah.
And again, it's hard to say, I love you, but I can't be around you. That's a very valid thing. It is a hard thing to get to. But again, you have to take care of yourself. We have to take care of ourselves.
Completely. It makes sense, you know. And, you know, landing into my own perspective as a Mexican and Latin culture, the family is like, oh my God, your family must have to be everything. And
Yeah.
little by little, this been changing, not in the way like your family is not everything, but also like you don't have to keep this pattern or toxicity. And, you know, again, landing into the macho stuff, even is like, oh, you have to compress all your emotions, don't show anything, be stoic in a very toxic way. I think now with the new generation, this has been changing at least because many people start to identify like, yeah, is my mom, whatever family member can be, but also there's something that I have put first, which is myself, you know. And from again, from the perspective of love, I decided to stop with that. It doesn't mean that I will not see you anymore, but at least take a step back in certain distance to put myself first, love myself first. So then if you try to do also your same work, your self work, you can, you know, interact with me and we can enjoy many conversations and, you know, spend a lot of time together because we love each other and we don't try to attack or repetitive the patterns that we had in our lives, you know.
Yeah. And again, when you're talking about, sometimes the word toxic is overused, but I'll just use it here. When you're talking about those people, whoever they may be, um, again, it's up to us to set the boundary,
Yeah.
to set the healthy boundary, because we have to take care of ourselves. So if that, like I said, so that means having a conversation with that person, uh, like right now, maybe it's politics, right? Easy one, right? Like, look, if we're going to have a relationship, we cannot discuss this at all. Now, if you're okay with that, then maybe I can proceed with this relationship. If you're not, then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to distance myself. I wish you well, nothing bad, but so you have to be the one that sets the boundaries for those type of people. And if they can't meet you at that point somewhere, then again, you're back to you. I have to disassociate.
Okay, Drew, is self awareness always a good thing or can too much of it be a problem?
That's a great question. And I want to say well, many things in extremes can have a negative reaction. So, and what I mean by that is, so self-awareness is questioning yourself, right? So if you have a conversation with someone and they react, say in a negative way, and then you say to yourself, oh, did I say something, or could I have said that in a better way? Oh, That sounded a little, it did sound a little mean. Let me apologize because I know, okay? So that's all great. That's like self-awareness, right? Um, but if you start doing that and questioning every single, right? Almost like obsessive compulsive,
Mm.
right? Question every single move you make, every single thought you have. That probably can be a negative, right?
Yeah.
Because and again, everything I speak is from experience, is it creates the overthinker.
Mm.
So I am an overthinker. So I always been an overthinker. So I have to keep that in check as well, to if something happens or a situation, conversation. I mean, again, I'm at, this is at a different level right now as opposed to, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
But now I know it's like, no, I'm good. Like, like that's fine. So, but back then I would still question everything, everything. So I think it can become obsessive and it could hurt you in that sense.
Yeah.
So, like everything, it's managing. How do we manage our emotions? How do we manage our awareness?
Mhm.
What do we do with the information? So it's all a process of learning ourselves. That's the umbrella. It's all about learning about ourselves,
Mm.
right?
Completely.
So yeah.
Now, for the people, basically, with the things that we mentioned, for the people that is listening, uh, a part of the questioning every single time that if you do it in excess, as every excess will be something bad, and you will develop a certain anxiety about
Yeah.
questioning all the time. A part of questioning, do you have or keep in your mind another resources that from your perspective and from your own experience that helped you to in this process of self-awareness, or what you can recommend based on the previous experiences as a coach, or something that you have as a base every single time you have someone coaching?
Well, again, I think again the self-awareness and the checking in with yourself is also about intent.
Mhm.
Like, is my intent when I'm asking myself to check in and make sure that I'm, on track, that, I'm being the person that I want to be. But you again, you have to know yourself. Like, are you an anxious person to begin with, right? Um, so what I think for me, and I'll speak from personal experience right now, and what I talk to clients about is, again, all part of the process of knowing yourself, right? And I just lost my train of thought. Just the
No,
first time. This is very good because this happens often. So, um, oh my goodness, my
no, it's
apologies.
fine. No, it's fine. No, like you have from your experiences, you have a first of all put an intention like, okay, I want to become better. I want to, be completely out of my comfort zone, break the cycle. That of course require an effort.
What I was talking, thank you. The intention, right? It's not to like second guess yourself. It's not to degrade yourself, or, which some people like looking to find fault. That's when it can start to tumble the other way, right?
Yeah.
So when it's the intention of, oh no, I just want to be the best person I can be. I want to make sure that I'm speaking the way I want to speak and people are hearing me the way, I want to project my character as a person of integrity, right? So, but if you're doing it from a place of, oh my God, I fucked up again, I can't do this, I can't talk right to that, I keep making, then that's the where the negative comes in. So intention is very clear. And again, everybody should be in therapy. I don't care how much money you have, what color your skin is, what part of the country you're from, what country you're from. Because, like you said earlier, everyone has something. Everyone has something. And I feel like we can all, no matter who we are, be better versions of ourselves with a little effort.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a lot of effort, but with a little effort and knowing that we are worth that effort. And when we put in that effort to ourselves, the people around us are going to reap the rewards of that subconsciously and consciously in real time, and subconsciously picking up those messages that years later maybe we don't even know that you received.
Yeah.
Or does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
So
With this reality that we're living now, that is not only the family that also impact in our lives or have a certain, you know, uh, messages or info that we get as a person, landing into the social media. Do you consider that social media it helps or hurts for the self awareness?
both.
Both. Hey,
Well, I think, like many things, it's uh, a blessing and a curse, right? It's all how you use it,
yeah,
right? So again, the self-awareness, yeah, I can use it, right? And be like, oh, you're a fuck up. You're no good because you can't do this. And or I can say, oh, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm being aware of how I speak or the words I choose.
yeah,
Social media, again, like a lot of social media is not real,
hmm,
right?
yeah,
But a lot of it is wonderful,
yeah,
right? You're there, I'm there.
yeah,
I know that we're authentic and genuine people. Okay.
hmm,
So it's having the discernment to what is, what am I attached to right now? Am I
hmm,
attached to these, these pages or, people, promoters that are promoting these things that are not realistic or that are just so far out of the realm of, my being? Or am I looking for the ones that I can obtain, kind of easy or easier or simple or messages that resonate
yeah,
with the viewer? So again, I think it's, you know, great. Like without social media, like we wouldn't be here right now.
yeah, definitely.
And but also I feel like it could hurt us too if we're
Mhm.
not careful,
Hey,
if we're
yeah,
not using our good judgment.
yeah, completely. I think, I share that mindset again because that's the way we met. And I think the algorithm now that everything works by algorithms, it's so powerful to use as a resource and as a tool
Mm.
instead of as a, someone that it's attacking you plus attacking you. So yeah, I think be focused about like what you want to get from it is what you're going to receive. It's as simple as that. If you want to always scroll on your phone and receive messages about like you are not perfect because you compare it to yourself and someone is living a better life than yourself,
Right,
blah blah blah. I think that kind of content it can be toxic and it will start to dig in more into yourself in a very toxic way.
right.
And I think the best tool that we have also with the social media is like you can type in whatever you want to know and you have access to it for good or bad. It's just as simple as that. So
And Mike, this just ties into everything we said, right? Because you have a choice. We have a choice. When I look at this content on social media,
mhm,
do I feel good or do I feel bad about myself? Right? Just like with our relatives, or right?
yeah,
How do I feel when I look? If I look at this page and I'm constantly, it's making me feel bad or not worthy, or then why am I looking at that page?
mhm,
So another self analysis to do, right? Why do I keep looking at that?
yeah,
You
complete.
know?
Yeah.
So,
I think, and just pushing a little bit in the next step about it, I think also be a creator or whatever you can do on your social media and platform also require a kind of exam, a previous exam to do it, and that you will develop a kind of thicker skin about it. Because if you did your homework about like discovering yourself, be self-aware, and all of it that requires, now when you show yourself in this meta word to say in a some way that it's social media, also with the haters, trolls, whatever that all of us were exposed once you become a creator or just put yourself in the social media stuff. Also, you develop this understood like, okay, those I don't know those people. I don't know who they are. So if they say something about me, it will not hurt me because I'm very self-aware that I know who I am, and what they're saying it doesn't match with my version and what I want to project. So why should I have to care and focus about it? You know.
Yes.
Unfortunately, many people, and I've been seeing that of course you have feelings. We're humans again,
Yeah.
but be very self-aware. Also, not it's not only an own exam and an own homework. Also, you project that, and as you
Hmm.
vibe in the same frequency, you also attract that kind of people to your life. So,
Hmm.
as you say previously, it takes a lot of work. It really takes a lot of work, and it's not like instantly. But from the other side, once you did all this work, I think the perspective is quite better. And you, as you feel better, you also attract people that feels better with themselves and
Hmm.
match perfectly, as a friendship, as an even people that you don't even know in person. As you
Yeah.
share the same thoughts, it really feels like refreshing to find people out there and having the tools of social media and these platforms to be able to keep absorbing this kind of knowledge.
Yeah. And I don't want to scare anybody. Again, I'm a realist, so I tell you, it's going to take work. But just like I said about me talking to myself and walking myself,
Hmm.
you once you start seeing results, like the first time you do that, whatever that is, right? You're gonna be like, okay, I did it. Then the next time it's going to be a little easier. And the next time, so it's not like you're going to be this unaware person and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to struggle for years. Yes, you're going to have to put in the work because you're worth it,
Hmm.
but it's going to be a gradual thing that's going to get easier and easier and easier
Hmm.
as you go on until one day you're like, you're like this,
Yeah, like
oh,
seeing.
wow, look at
Yeah.
me. Look at where
Oh,
I was a year ago or 5 years ago, whatever. And
yeah.
look at who I am today, living, uh, living free,
Mhm.
living who I really am, who I really want to be, who I accept,
Yeah.
right? And like you said, it's not important if you don't accept me
Hmm.
because I'm good with who I am.
Hmm.
It's like I said earlier, it's just such a freeing, beautiful thing, you know? And I wish everybody can feel that.
Yeah,
So, but that's
definitely.
up to them.
Yeah, well, it is. It's all about the decisions and
Yeah.
intention. So just to finish this, what's your final message for someone who wants to live a more self-aware and fulfilling life? I know there's not a certain steps or whatever because everyone have their own voice and that's the magic of it. But do you recommend a certain resources like podcasts, books that helps you as a in your personal experience, or in general where you can find out there that people can have access to it?
Well, the first step is saying to yourself,
Hmm.
I don't want to be like this, or I want to be like this. Okay. The first acknowledgement that has to be the first self awareness. Okay. Is I equate it to having addiction issues, right? If you are addicted to something, you cannot be helped until you say to yourself, I'm an addict. I need some help.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to say is, I need to get to know myself better.
Mm.
I want to be different than my family, than the way I was brought up, or the circle of friends. That doesn't feel right to me. I feel like I'm a better or whatever that means, right? So you have to acknowledge that first, because without that, nothing's going to happen.
Mhm.
Okay. And the second thing is, for me as a young person in my 20s, I read just about every self help book I could, get myself attached to. That was my way. And
Mm.
also, I was in therapy. So I recommend, as I said earlier, therapy to everyone, whether it's a life coach, whether it's a therapist, a social worker, whatever that looks like, somebody to talk to that is, you know, non-biased,
Mhm.
because your best friend is biased, someone that is non-biased to you and that will tell you the truth in a caring manner, but that will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I will always tell you the truth. I will not lie to you. You may not like what I want to hear, but again, I mean what I say, but that's up to you to do what you want with. you
Yeah.
know? So I think those are some of the important steps. It's not a particular book or podcast, things, it's what resonates with you.
Yeah.
For some people, the way I speak, it resonates with them, right? For some people, it may be another podcaster or that, oh, I connect with that person. So find that person that you connect with. Find that book, the title of a book that says, oh, yeah, that does something, right? There was
Yeah.
one by Louise Hayes called Heal Your Life that, greatly helped me. Conversations with God was another one that I read that was like, boom. The Secret was another one, boom, for me. But there were so many books, So I just think find something that resonates with you. But again, be open. That's the first thing,
Yeah.
is admit that you want to be a different version of yourself. You want to find out who you really are, you know?
Of
Yeah,
course. Wow.
yeah.
Well, this has been an eye-opening conversation, for real. And I think we all just go to a masterclass of self-awareness today, first of all. No, to be honest. And I
No,
hope
I love that.
everyone,
I love that.
and I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired to start looking inward and making powerful change in their lives, because again, you are one step about to take the first decision that will be impactful to yourself. And again, you cannot escape to yourself. So the best way is like dive in and also make your own home, that is your body and mind and whatever, your soul. Make it better and comfortable so you can be out there in the world and be able to, express that and connect with people that it's also meaningful.
And just remember, you're worth it.
Yeah,
We're worth it.
we are. Definitely we are. Okay, Drew. Before we wrap up, where can people connect with you? Where, if you are, well, you are a coach,
Yep.
right? Where they can
So
contact you and learn more about your work.
yeah, so right now, I don't have a website. That's in the process, but I am on YouTube and I am on TikTok at Words with Drew, right? And you could private message me there. I do one-on-one, in person or through Zoom, or through phone call, whatever makes the client feel most comfortable. And we can do a single session. We can do a series of sessions. I like to talk with a new person for about 15 minutes, complimentary, just to get an idea of where they are at and what they hope for, and then we work through a plan from there. So right now, those two are my to private message me from on those two sites.
Wonderful. I'm gonna add also on the edition of this, on the editing, I'm gonna
Appreciate
add
it.
your accounts and all your info where people contact you.
Thank you.
And I have to say thank you so much. I forgot to mention in the beginning of the podcast because to be honest, I was a little bit nervous and excited at the same time, which is a good feeling, I think, and keeps you awake,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective. But you were or are the first person I have as a guest in my podcast. So thank you so much for saying yes. First of all, accept
Mm.
this and for let me take a little bit of your time today, and for the really wise knowledge we provide to us today. It's really valuable, and I really appreciate that, for real.
Mike, I'm honored. I'm honored to be the first, and I'm honored to share this time with you. And I really mean that, and hopefully somebody sees this and feels a little bit better.
Hopefully, and I'm sure of
Yeah.
it. I'm sure I'm
Yeah.
manifesting that. So thank you so
Yeah.
much again for your time, and it's always a pleasure. And for the people that are listening, uh please follow me on social media, subscribe, and I'm gonna post this in multiple platforms so you can find me whatever: TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where they're gonna find the longer format of this video. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.